Hey guys, today we are going to talk about how a website works. So, why is that important? Because when you start a web development course or an application development, you need to understand how a website works, what happens in the background. That when you press www.facebook.com on your browser, you get a web page back which says "Welcome to Facebook." How everything works in the background, you need to understand that before you learn about web development and you develop websites, right? So understanding that is very important, and let's start with the website architecture and how that works. So basically this is a client server architecture which is really important in wherever you go in your btech or whatever. So people talk about this too often. So let's start with this. So here we can see that it's a laptop of yours. So let's say it's your laptop. You pressed www.facebook.com, then you get the web page back. So in that time, when you press www.facebook.com and you get a web page back, what is happening exactly? So where does that web page got from? Is it stored in your local system? No, right? Obviously. So what will happen? It has to fetch from the internet. So how does the browser know that where is it in the internet and all? So we're gonna talk about how that happens, right? So when you type a Facebook www.facebook.com, first we should understand certain terminology behind this architecture. So first is this laptop that you are in is called the client machine, and the browser which runs on the client machine is called client software. And uh, and this we here specified is a Facebook data center. What is a data center? Data center is nothing but having a group of servers together with the databases. It's called a Facebook data center. Why Facebook requires data center? It is because crores and crores of people request their servers. It should be like there should be not one server but a group of like distributed servers that are there, right? So the group of servers together is called a data center, and Facebook owns a data center. So when you're so so this is the terminal. Then I'll talk about the DNS server. What is DNS server? Okay. So in order first we need to understand that in order to talk with any server, you need a server IP address. That's a fact because server cannot be identified by other things. So in our here, if you see that Facebook server's IP address is 24.22.31.43, but you don't press that, or you neither remember that, right? You just know that I know facebook.com, I want facebook.com. So when you press this in your web browser, even your browser doesn't know that 24.22.31.43 is the IP address that is associated with Facebook, and that's the IP address I have to request. So how does the Facebook know that? So sorry, how does the uh, browser figures out that 24.22.21.43 is the Facebook IP address? So it has to ask someone, right? When you're on the road and you don't know the address, you ask someone. So that's where the DNS server comes into the picture. So DNS server is some hosted server by different types of companies. They host that server, and your web browser will ask, I want facebook.com's IP address to DNS server. So DNS server maps that facebook.com and finds the IP address and returns IP address to you. To you in the sense the client software, that is browser. So now the browser knows the IP address of facebook.com. So it knows which server it has to talk. So so it will request the server. This is 24.31.43, and the server processes whatever the request is, and then it responds with the web page. So then the client will get the client server or client machine will get the web page that it has to display on. So it displays that welcome to Facebook or whatever. So that's how it works. And next, coming to like what's inside the web page and how a web page works. I mean, what is there inside the web page, right? And what I need to learn in order to build a website. So let's start with simple language, which is very very important, is HTML. What is HTML? Hypertext markup language, which is nothing but the skeleton of the web page. What do you mean by skeleton? Skeleton is nothing but the structure. How I structure the elements is called skeleton. Or so the purpose of HTML is nothing but structuring the elements that are in the website. So let's say one paragraph and one heading. So these are the elements, right? So in order to structure them, I use HTML. So how does the HTML works? So HTML have the head tag. See if here are like both HTML tags. So how the HTML works in the it's a simple language which has only tags. That's it. So inside the tags we specify whatever you want, then it structures as it is. So here if you see there are HTML starting tag and ending tag. Inside the HTML there is an head tag. Head tag is nothing but when you open a browser, right? Let's show me the example for you. So when you open a website, right, here if you see Slack, a Google Calendar, so what does that mean? So that's the head tag with whatever you specify in the head tag and the title tag, what should be displayed here is shown there. So let's get back to that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's how the head tag works, and the title is what I showed you, right? The Slack it was written. So the if you write page title, the page title will be displayed there. And then we have a body tag, and then we have a body closing tag and a body tag. So whatever you written, whatever you specify inside the body is displayed on the web page. That's there. So whatever you display inside the body tag, that will be displayed on the web page. The other things are like a metadata kind of thing. So here we specified h1. What is h1? H1 is nothing but heading 1. It's like top level of header. I mean have the heading which is the highest of the size which can be specified in the HTML. So here we specify h1 closing tag, h1 starting tag and a closing tag, and whatever you written inside this tags, right? This is heading. That is what displayed, which is this is heading. And same with the paragraph. This is paragraph. So this is how HTML works. So, but this is not cool, right? I mean, who writes this? This is used to be in like far away, like thousands of years or like I don't know. So we want cool stuff, right? It should be like colorful and all that. So who does that? I want styling, right? Who does the styling part? Here it is when the concept of what is CSS. So CSS is nothing but cascading style sheets. It's kind of a language that we encode in the HTML to style the web pages. So what does that mean? So here if you see there is a new tag which is in the head which says style. Style is nothing but inside the style tag we mention the CSS code, CSS whatever it is called, CSS rules. So what does this say? So it is saying that body tag, here is a body tag, background color should be light blue. So that's what here the output is. If you see the output, the body is entirely blue, sky blue. And if you see the h1 tag color should be white and text alignment should be center. So that's what here is. H1 tags is in the center and it's in white color. When you compare with this, here the heading is in left side with the paragraph and this is bold and black. So here we specified, we changed that, overrided that using the CSS. We wrote color should be in white and alignment should be in the center. And here if you see the paragraph tag, so what? So here paragraph says font family should be Verdana, so whatever it is. So if we see the paragraph here, this is somewhat different font style, and here we changed that font style to Verdana, and the font size should be 20 pixel. We can specify exactly what pixel should be the size of the text we write, right? So that's what CSS does. It styles, it adjusts, it aligns the text. Whatever you want to do, you can do it with the so basically styling of a web page is done by CSS. So that's the part of the CSS. So let's move to the other language which is really important, that is JavaScript. So in our case we are using JavaScript as a client side language. What does that mean? I said you before, the client, whatever the languages or whatever runs on the client is called client machine. So this is a client machine and the browser is called the client software, and any language that runs on the client machine is called a client language. And if you translate that to the server side, anything that runs in the server is called server side language. Yeah, so JavaScript is a client side language in our case, but it's also server side in some other cases, but we need not discuss that now. So what is the use of JavaScript? Let's understand that. So whenever you visit a website, you see the graphics, animations, and all those stuff, right? Those are all handled by JavaScript. So let's understand this point, which is less server interaction. What that does that mean? So I said whenever you request www.facebook.com, you request server. So these guys saying we reduce the server interaction. So what does that mean? So he's saying when you validate user input before sending the page off into the server, this saves server traffic, which means less load on your server. So what does that mean? So when there is a form, let us assume there is a form, you're filling that form, and you set a password that Facebook set a password that it should be 9 letters. It should not be less than that. But you typed only 4 letters. So in order to validate that your password is correct, if you don't use JavaScript, the web page should be validated in the server side, which takes a lot of time because it's in the internet. So it will take like couple or 3 to 4 seconds to get back to you that your password is very less. Whereas what JavaScript offers is when you type a lesser password, it automatically detects that and shows that in there like your password is too less. Okay, we cannot send the request to the server. So that's what. So it reduces the less server interaction. But that's the first point, and then it gives immediate feedback to the visitors. What that does mean, they don't have to wait for the page reload to see if they have forgotten to enter something. He speaks the same. So when you're filling the form, you forgot something, it should be validated in the client side itself, so it saves the time. You need not visit server back and reload the page and not all. That increases that. The second point says that increased interactivity. So what does that mean? So when you see that, right, you want you go to a button and it will change the color and it goes bigger or something like that. So that's all graphics and animations are accessed and given by provided by the JavaScript. You write a JavaScript code that works the same. Richer interfaces. What we are talking about, right? Having the richer interfaces in the sense graphics and colorful moving stuff, right? Those are all handled by JavaScript. So this is an example of a JavaScript. So JavaScript is written in a script tag. It says function message, which says alert allow Java point. When this function called, you have to alert a Java point. What is an alert? If you see, there will be a pop-up box that gets in, right? So that's what an alert is. So here he is saying that a input type is a button which on click means when you click the button, the message function should be invoked. So when you click that button, the message function should be invoked. That's what he was saying. So here the output of the web page. So it says welcome to JavaScript. This is a button. So when you click that button, so this is a pop-up which says hello Java point. So that's what here, right? Alert. So that's what he meant. So this is all done by JavaScript. This is a simple example of how JavaScript works. Let's move ahead and let's understand what is the difference between static website and dynamic websites. So let us get into the fact that Facebook.com. So when let's say you and me are there, I request Facebook and I get some web page and some content profiles and posts and etc. You get the same thing. I mean, I get some kind of post. I may get like Sutyasan or like Kamalasan or whatever post I get. You don't get the same post, right? You have different friends, different profiles and all. So the content is not same with me and you. So these websites which offer different content to different people is called dynamic website, where a static website is same. I mean, if you see a Wikipedia/Virat Kohli, you get the same web page for the Wikipedia that I get. So that is called static website, and a dynamic website is the example that I gave with the Facebook, right? So that's the difference between that. So these guys says no interaction with the database possible. So what does that mean? So coming back to the picture we showed first, there is a database and the server. So let us take the example of the Facebook. So whatever information we store in Facebook, I mean the friends we got, post we there, and all the persistent data is there, right? It should be stored in the database. If you studied the DBMS course in your curriculum, you know that you write SQL queries and you store the stuff into the database, right? That's what happens. So here in the say server interacts with the database using the SQL queries and gets the result, and it will combine it into the web page and then gives a response. That is the basically the dynamic websites. So in static websites, the content is same, right? Then why should we interact with the database? That's what he was saying. So he says no interaction with the database possible, and interaction with the database is possible. If you're not talking with the database, it will be obviously faster, and obviously this is slower and cheaper development cost, because you need not add database specialists and all those kind of SQL queries and all, because you don't need databases, right? So there's cheaper development cost. Of course, this is more development cost. No feature of content management, because the content will be same for everyone, so you need not manage the content. Feature of content management system should be there because you manage the content system, right? So using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, these three are enough for developing the static website. You need not learn any language for the static website. And but when you coming to the dynamic website, with these three, you need PHP or Node.js or some kind of server-side language. Even Java supports server-side languages. You know, and even JavaScript supports, which uses Node.js module. Um, you need to know the server-side languages to do the dynamic websites. So here with the point we talked, right? The same content is delivered every time the page is loaded, and the content may change every time the page is loaded. That's what dynamic website is. Yeah. So that's the theory part of it. So thank you.